And we're back. Game one's behind us, and Na'Vi able to shut the door right about 30 minutes in. Liquid, nonetheless, looked pretty strong throughout most of the match. The wheels just kind of came off the wagon as the mid-game began to develop, and we really saw the strength and movement of Na'Vi show itself. Liquid, though, looking to bounce back and not the series, but Na'Vi obviously looking for a 2-0 win to get off to a nice start here in the D2L Western Challenge. I'm your host here in AC Chambers, joined once again and as always here on the Western Challenge by Trouf. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it during the draft. We knew how strong Na'Vi was going to be in the department of movement and in terms of making things happen, being able to carve up and dissect that Liquid lineup in the end. Just too much for Liquid to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, and Dendy really got out of control once he got that BKB. And like I mentioned, it was a perfect fight for him once he got it. It was a 10-second BKB right at Roshan. They had a good initiation, and he just went ham. So one thing to note as we get into game two is apparently Demon had some kind of emergency, and I hope everything's okay, but he won't be able to fill in for Liquid for this match. It's actually going to be the king himself, Snaking. So as I was talking about last match is, you know, now does that mean that TC is going to go back to support this game? Because I don't really know if Snaking's that comfortable playing support. Not to say that he couldn't, but I think his effectiveness is best seen through the carry role. So that's one thing to think about as we approach this game.
You know, I very much agree with you, and you know, it's one of those situations where it's as we see Dota develop, and I think this is an interesting storyline, not exactly headline news, but there is definitely beginning to emerge like a tier 1 and tier 2 in terms of common stand-ins that we see stand in for different teams, and I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, going all the way back even to the D2L Season 4 Grand Finals in Las Vegas, where we saw Demon stand in and do an amazing job with Fnatic, and then you know, today, and as we've seen him stand in for other teams, be it Cloud9, be it Liquid, etc., we've just seen him be one of the most malleable players in terms of what he can bring. And I agree with you very much about Snaking. He's a phenomenal player in his own right, certainly has a lot of experience and knows how to play with these players, but he is a little bit more one-dimensional in that regard. So I'm interested to see how the players end up laning this out and who ends up on who to begin with. Speaking of who's going to end up on who, first and foremost begins with the draft. Liquid lands themselves an Naga Siren and a Batrider, while Na'Vi going to take the Ancient Apparition this time around and join it up with a Visage.
Yeah, and you know one curious thing I've seen actually from the last game's bans and this one as well is I believe Na'Vi actually banned out Spectre last game, which is funny because they just ran it and I know that they're comfortable with that hero, and now Liquid's banning it out too, and it's not really a hero that you see picked or banned like all the time. It's definitely a good hero, and I do agree with some casters that it's underrated. I think it's a bit underrated, and I think, yeah, it can really take over games once he gets the space and farm. Actually, like we saw Na'Vi play earlier today, they were kind of struggling early on. Havos was playing it, got some farm, and just kind of took over the game after that. So, but it's just interesting to see them bounce back and forth banning it, because I don't know if each team has necessarily got that as a signature carry. If anything, I think it's Na'Vi. That's why I was a little surprised to see them ban it last game. But nonetheless, it gets banned out both games.
Yeah, in the West, I agree with you 100%. Na'Vi really, if there's any team known that will run a Spectre more commonly than any other team, it is Na'Vi. And I think the reason we see Liquid take it out here, I mean, whenever you talk about it, there are just so many heroes that work ridiculously well with an Ancient Apparition in terms of just being able to maximize the potential of Ice Blast. And Spectre actually fits into that fairly well. You know, you throw an Ice Blast out, and, you know, Spectre's one of those unique heroes because of her global presence due to Haunt. She can just do her own thing, and if a fight breaks out, she's there very quickly. But that also works in terms of how how the AAs run. Is it going to be a purely gank-oriented AA? Is it going to be like a 5 position that just hangs in the back of fights? That was just what I was getting ready to make that point, and it makes me angry. Another hero that works really well is the Nyx Assassin for the exact same reason. Basically, heroes that contribute burst. Nyx Assassin with Vendetta, Visage, if you're able to let him sit back for a moment and build up a very good soul assumption. Spectre, when she goes the max Spectral Dagger build, being able to haunt in onto a target elsewhere on the map throughout the Spectral Dagger, get a little desolation damage even if that's the case. And yeah, I mean, that's just, there's so many ways you can run an AA, and it's why the hero has become such a high tier pick over the last few weeks and months and so on and so forth. And Liquid trying to stay ahead of that, taking out the Spectre, but the Nyx is going to fit into that picture very clearly as well.
Yeah, and you don't really think of Nyx Assassin as like a global type of hero and a global strat, but if you really think about it, it's actually effective with heroes that have global ultis like Furion or Ancient Apparition in this case, similar to like a bounty hunter where you just kind of roam around and invis. You find someone that's kind of low, maybe half HP. You throw out the AA ult, Nyx goes in, easy kill. So it's actually very effective, and I really like that pickup from Na'Vi. Also because they were kind of lacking stuns, so it's kind of a nice pickup right there. They had AA and Visage. Visage doesn't really have a stun until he hits 6 with the birds, but even then it's not that reliable. So I like the picks coming out actually from both sides because Disruptor just got picked up, and that's like my favorite support. So
Disruptor's a blast to play and a blast to cast, especially when he's handled very well. And I really like Disruptor with Naga Siren. Disruptor and Enigma, really the only two big teamfight heroes that can overlap what they want to do with a Naga Siren ultimate, throw down the kinetic field and the static storm, and then turn the Naga Siren ultimate off and so on. So positionally, it makes a lot of sense to fit that in with this. They're going to have a lot of ways to start fights, be it Naga Sleep, be it Bad Rider with Lasso, be it Disruptor with a Glimpse if a target gets a little too far out. One thing that intrigues me about Na'Vi, though, and this just goes back to how they've run this Ancient Apparition before. Obviously, the AA fits in just fine in a 4 or 5 role, but you can also run in mid, and I have seen Na'Vi run that hero mid probably a half dozen times with Dindy handling it and just going pure ape across the map, especially when they land themselves a Nyx Assassin. In fact, I've seen them run Ancient Apparition, Nyx Assassin, and Bounty Hunter as well. That gets disgusting quickly, makes you very one-dimensional, of course, is a little bit of a gimmicky lineup, but just to throw that out there, they've done it before. Could be the case here. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, I won't count it out, but it really takes a special kind of player, and Dendy obviously has shown that he can do that. It takes a special kind of player to be able to pull it off because while once you're really far away, the AA blasts are quite easy. If you're still camping around mid farming, they're actually not as easy as they might look because it doesn't get as wide of a radius when you're shooting them out from mid to another lane. So it really takes a little bit of finesse play, but obviously Denny can do it. Pugna's picked up, so that probably tells me that it's not going to be a mid AA, but I do know that Na'Vi actually like Pugna as well. So, and actually, you know what? I believe that don't they run it more as a kind of a core, like a one position for Havost? I don't know. Navi's kind of unpredictable at times.
Well, they do it a lot. They and Alliance both, and even Fnatic at times have been known to run the Pugna in a one position and just look to push towers, basically push towers early, get aggressive, take away map control, then just live on your opponent's side of the map and be able to rely on the heavy burst damage that you have. If you have a lineup like this, having Soul Assumption, having Ancient Apparition's ulti, not to mention what is equivalent to burst in a lot of ways whenever you're talking about the power of Chilling Touch early in the game, Vendetta from Nyx Assassin, and of course Pugna with Decrepify to amplify the magic damage as well as his own Nether Blast. And I'd really like to pick up as well of Pugna just because of the Nether Ward. If they do end up in a defensive position, with this kind of a team, picking up the Lifestealer helps out in that regard quite a bit. Now they're going to have a nice way to add dimension to Bad Rider as well. When he goes into Lasso, you can simply infest a Lifestealer into him, and that makes for a very nice combination of bursting down heroes. But yeah, I feel like Na'Vi is definitely going for a very specific kind of playstyle, while Liquid's a little bit more well-rounded in their draft.
Yeah, and they pick up Lifestealer here. It's actually not bad against 3 of Navi's heroes, but Pugna's pretty good against Lifestealer in particular. You can use that to crep on whoever he's attacking or himself even if you need to. So, yeah, that's kind of an interesting pickup. I do think Lifestealer is still very good. I know a lot of teams and people think he's kind of fallen off and not what he used to be, but I still think he's pretty damn good. But like I said, he's not particularly good against Pugna, but he's very good against AA, who has really no escape mechanisms. The Rage is really good to go through the carapace of Nyx. So he's not a horrible pickup, but Pugna's a pretty decent counter against him.
Yeah, I agree with you about Lifestealer. What I think's happened to Lifestealer is he's still an excellent hero at what he does. It's just what he does is so narrow and specific that he needs not just good play, but honestly good heroes to set things up for him. Having the Naga Siren with the Ensnare to allow just a single target to be isolated is good. Same thing goes with Disruptor, being able to silence out an AoE and basically create a slaughterhouse of sorts with the kinetic field certainly helps out a Lifestealer and so on. But I mean, right now, when you look at Navi's lineup, again, we really don't have a clear picture of exactly how they're going to choose to run this. And that in and of itself is tough to deal with if you're Liquid. Liquid already with the Bat. I mean, Bat doesn't really count as a core. Oh, wow. Hello, Sniper. That makes me happy. It wasn't that long ago that we saw Sniper actually getting toyed around with by a lot of teams. And that just kind of stopped. But we get to see it here today. That makes me a very happy caster.
Dude, me and some guys have done a lot of brainstorming, and I swear this hero is going to be like the TI4 hero, man.
Doesn't
This
surprise
hero,
me.
I really feel like so. The first spell, I forget what it's called, but it seems like
Shrapnel?
it's just shrapnel. It seems like it's not the popular choice in pubs, but man, if you get it, it's got so many things good about it.
Yep.
It's got a lot of pushing potential, extremely far range for casting it, decent AoE.
Yep.
It's just this hero is, in my opinion, so good. You got to be very, very careful about how you play him. And I think the hardest thing about him is just the item build to choose. So, depending on, it's probably going to be Havos playing this. Well, we could see it mid. Who knows? He's got to be very careful about his positioning, especially against a disruptor and bat.
Yeah.
So, it's going to take a lot of finesse. That's for sure.
That's exactly what I was thinking as well. It takes some cojones to draft a sniper into a lineup that has a Naga, a bat, and a disruptor right off the bat. I mean, that is tough because, obviously his job is to kite. He's, usually you'll see, well, not usually, pretty much all the time, it's a glass cannon kind of a build on a sniper, just what the hero does. And, it's worth mentioning as well. I mean, he has a fair amount of burst to go with a gank-oriented lineup when you're talking about Assassinate. And the way that could work with an Ancient Apparition as well. So, but not going to get to see the Dindy mid Ancient Apparition, but what we will get to see is a sniper taken out and going to be farmed by Dindy. So we'll be a mid sniper, and looking forward to this. Na'Vi heading straight to top lane as 5, and looks like that's going to be the same story for Team Liquid. So a little potential for blood on the soil right off the bat.
Yeah, and it actually is going to be Snaking playing one of the 4 or 5 roles this game. So they're sticking TC still on that core position. So one thing to note right there. We got a 5-man rotation here coming up from Na'Vi as Funnick has boots first on this Nyx with a ward. So going to spot out some vision out here. That'll be good for him.
Nice free-to-play ward. Gets an eye on TC immediately. It's going to be Snaking the stand-in, coming out into lane on the Naga Siren. And Na'Vi lying in wait and hoping someone will overstep their bounds. Way too on this disruptor, such a squishy target. They're going to go ahead and de-ward. Here comes Funnick, looking for an impale. Who will he find it on? They're going to commit to the Naga Siren, chasing him down into the river, down the steps. In the meantime, the rest of Na'Vi actually chasing off way too. So Liquid, even though they did get, that's actually a win for Liquid across the board. They got the ward. It didn't cost them anything but a few HP that'll be quickly regen before the creeps even spawn.
I was looking around actually. Puppy had a sentry ward that he placed right there, but was it way too that got the ward? Because I feel like it looked like Havos almost denied that for a second, but I must be seeing things because that would have been pretty funny if that happened. But anyway, yeah, there's a DD picked up by Snaking here, and yeah, we don't see support Naga too much anymore. Other than I think Fnatic picks it like all the time, and that's about it. But I actually still think it's quite good. She does a lot of damage, and it kind of is like secures you farm in the late game if you need to fall back on someone else. I don't really think that Liquid need to this game, but it's still a good support hero in her own right.
Yeah, I support Naga like you said. Not as popular as it once was, but you do still see it, and it still can be very good. And just goes to show you, and it's one of the things I think all of the viewers, be you caster or be you just a standard viewer sitting at home watching on Twitch or via in-client, I think it's one of those things that excites us so much about the upcoming International in a couple of months, is just the state of the game right now. It feels so wide open compared even to the International 2013. Snaking caught with an impale, no follow-up though, so just eating a little bit of damage. Funnick, though, doing a decent job of staying in range of XP.
Yeah, he was actually playing with his stun right there with Snaking, as Snaking does some bad meta at all chat, but I'm sure it's some good fun.
Oh,
as we have some polls and
Dindy in trouble in mid. Quakeva, woo, came very close to bringing him down, and well, we're actually going to see Kuro manage to tally first blood on the Bad Rider here in the jungle. So well played there from Na'Vi.
Yeah, Bulba was like way too aggressive in the jungle right there, just kind of trying to take some of the creeps that, and let's see if he actually got him. Let me pull that tab up. No, he didn't. He only has 1 creep kill right now, so didn't really accomplish that much. And I missed the kill there as Murano gets the kill onto Dendy, the sniper, with Puppy nearby. So I missed that. Maybe hopefully you caught it.
No, it's one of those things. It's difficult to watch because in mid, I mean, you're used to seeing the players on top of each other, and outside of simply keeping the camera here the entire time, it can be difficult to catch all the action. I got there and ended up missing the kill at bottom just because when I got there, Dindy was being auto-attacked down below 1/5 health and only needed 1 more auto-attack, and he would have been first blood there. So should be a very active map. And speaking of Funnick, under cover of the invis, moving now, looking for a little revenge on Koikva. Koikva back up under his own tower, perhaps sensing something's off as Funnick is not in top lane. And knowing the 2-minute rune did just spawn, looks like Funnick going to go ahead and cut his losses and head elsewhere.
This isn't Pokemon. You can't catch them all. You can't catch all those kills, so that's okay. But all I was going to say about Bulba is he's playing way too aggressively. And I've actually watched a number of his Batrider games in the last few matches he's played, and he hasn't been too successful, quite frankly, in the offlane. I feel like he's given up a lot of kills where he didn't really need to, and he's playing a little bit aggressive right here, right now, trying to get some extra CS, but it's not even going to get that much. And yeah, I think he got one of the little tiny ones. So he's at the 5 CS, level 3, not too bad right now. But yeah, as I mentioned, he has had not too much success in the offlane as of late. So we'll see how that progresses.
Yeah, as we can see, he is struggling, sitting at just 5 CS. He is level 3.5, so not the complete end of the world. At the very least, his experience gain is hanging in there. Funnick just short of level 3 himself, but a relatively quiet map thus far, though we did see a couple of kills come out kind of back-to-back mostly. That could be tallied to just the matchups. And, you know, that's something I'd like to hear from you about. This matchup in mid, you said you've been brainstorming with some of your colleagues and other players, etc. Tell me about how you would approach this if you were a sniper player in mid going up against this Mirana.
Pretty much exactly as he's doing it. As he looks like he's going to get ganked. This is one of the problems with the snipers right now. Can they pull it off? His presence of mind, he just got his boots, I believe, so he's going to evade that gank. So nice play by Dendy. Maybe he got a heads-up call. That top was missing from Funnick with a smoke or something, so good play from him. But yeah, as you're asking, it looks like he's maxing Shrapnel, so man, big seal of approval from me. I love that. He actually hasn't got his 5th point just yet, but I imagine he's going to go back into that Shrapnel. And the thing about Sniper solo mid, even if you can evade those ganks like he just did, you should be able to out-CS anyone in mid, just because the attack animation's nearly instant. So, yeah, he does actually put a 3rd skill into Shrapnel, as he's getting some aggression from snaking with the haste rune, but he should be fine.
Yep, has had the runes denied for the most part, but doesn't have a bottle, so he's not going to mind that all that much. Kuroki and Puppy have done an excellent job of just taking control of the jungle. They are allowing Bulba so little room to breathe. He's actually down near the bottom of overall CS. And granted, Funnick's not faring any better, but he's not on a bad rider either. He's on a Nyx assassin who's just happy to try and find some levels out in this off lane, whereas a Bat really, Bat's success is so often defined by not only how quickly you can hit level 6 and get active on the map, but how quickly and efficiently you can get up a blink dagger. It's just such an unbelievably important item for how that hero works. And being delayed this far, I mean, he's got Tranquils, a TP, and that's every bit of it.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of upset, too, that his supports haven't really helped him to stack. He stacked once himself, but, I mean, it's a very good tool to have your supports at least just stack once for you while you're in the off lane. It doesn't take much, just a little bit of heads-up play. I know they tried to gank mid once and that failed, but, I mean, 5 minutes have rolled by, so there's really not an excuse. And it really does make a difference between getting a blink at 13 minutes and getting one at 9 or something like that. So yeah, a little unfortunate he's not going to have more stacks to work with, but he'll still get his fun that he needs.
Coming up on level 6 now, as you said, he's playing a little bit of a catch-up game. And taking a look at Avos, he's right there with TC, playing on the Pugna in the 1 position. And now this is what's going to be of particular curious nature to me, is exactly how Navi's going to choose to play this out once all of their heroes find their 6. We can already see some pressure being put on the tower. I don't know that they're going to overcommit to this. Kuroki's not yet level 6. If he were, I think they would go ahead and commit fully to this and just say, fine, we're going to take the tier 1 and we're going to push straight to tier 2 if you don't stop us. But once we see Kuroki find his level 6, I think Navi's just going to start to pressure towers like hell, use movement from Funnick to keep a good eye on things and to set up opportunities for engagement, and then make space for Dindy in the process and just let him farm and farm and farm.
Yeah, and I really think the Pugna pickup was actually quite smart. I mean, looking at the heroes too, I know Potom was actually last picked by Liquid, but that actually makes it even more curious because Potom is actually really awful against pushes, like really bad. It's just very difficult to actually get an initiation with your ulti, because when you're pushing, generally you sit down, you throw down some sentries if there are invis heroes, and then the invis heroes just kind of sit there and do nothing. I mean, she can maybe get lucky with an arrow, but even then it's kind of hard to initiate and go, get on, follow up with that initiation, I should say. So, and even Lifestealer, he doesn't really have good counter pushing. I guess the only person is like a Naga and maybe a Bat. I mean, Bat's quite good actually if he gets that blink, but other than that, not the best counter pushing team really from Liquid.
Taking a look at the item progression, and looks like they are going to try to exploit The lack of counter push, as you had mentioned, with the mech being brought out fairly quickly by Havost. He might have the whole thing. No, he's very close. Already has the buckler up more or less. Just heard an assassinate, and not even sure what that was shot at. But now beginning to use shrapnel, forcing Koikfa off of his own tower. The rest of Na'Vi slowly beginning to make their way towards mid. Only Havost is lacking. Kuro still short of level 5, let alone level 6, so only can contribute so much. But they're going to go ahead and just start using the range and shrapnel to bring down this tower. Funnick leading the way.
Yeah, and it's like very, very little that Liquid can do. It's got to be an arrow initiation, but there's no one else nearby. They're counter pushing the top, and that's probably their best bet, honestly. But they're doing it quite slowly. I feel like with the Potent Blast, here comes an arrow actually on the Funnick, but just a little bit of damage. He should be fine. Tower goes down. If they can glyph top and defend this, then they're going to be hugely ahead of Liquid right now.
I don't think they have to glyph. Yeah, they don't have to spin the glyph. All they have to do is rotate Havost up. He shows his face. What are you going to do? Stand and try to engage a tower into Nether Blast plus Nether Ward? Like, that's just not going to work. So, big wins across the board for right now for Na'Vi, even though there's only 2 kills on the board in 8 minutes. So, a relatively quiet early game in that regard. The efficiency rating for Na'Vi and what they've been able to accomplish in terms of secondary objectives besides just kills through the roof, already up to a 3,000 gold lead.
Yeah, and the fact that Denny's got this 7-minute boots, Wraith Band, and Hand of Midas, and actually bringing out treads to himself now, so he's actually really farmed. And this is one of the problems with Sniper, like I mentioned, is that you can get roamed on, but they just didn't do it successfully. Maybe they should have come in from a different angle, or I don't know if they had initiation top. Sorry, I missed that.
I caught it, don't worry. And snare there on Kuroki to try and follow us up. There's going to be a lasso on the Funnick. He has to carapace up. He's going to get off one last soul assumption before he drops. Funnick getting a little greedy, and he's going to end up trading 2 for 1 here. He was well behind enemy lines, was back here, and was keeping an eye on Snaking, who was relatively low health. Then we saw Way2, who was a squishy disruptor, kind of gave us a little juke and ducked up towards the trees, and he decided to initiate off of that, stutter stepped on the impale. Don't know that it would have made a big difference, as they did manage to bring him down when all was said and done, just not sure what the purpose of that trade was. I mean, I don't think they needed that, and certainly they weren't going to translate that into anything else. Now we're going to have a decrep on the TC. He's looking for safety, has Infest at the ready, won't have to use it though, as he's just a little too quick to catch.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to bait out a rage from him or anything, but the mech will be online. Actually, it is online, as he has it in the base, so Havost is going to have that, and it looks like they're just kind of manning down towers right now, because like I said, the counter push capabilities from Liquid are really lackluster. But yeah, I didn't catch that death from Funnick, but they didn't even have to lay a sentry ward down for that, and actually Snaking caught out a ward from Na'Vi that they just freshly placed up near their jungle, so that's a good little win, small win there for Liquid.
I wouldn't, like, I mean, it's a win for them in the practical sense, but honestly, Funnick kind of gave it to him. He engaged out of Vendetta when he knew he was surrounded by enemies. But at any rate, look exactly what's happening. They actually have brought Dindy up to top. I'm a little surprised. This whole time they've been pressuring this top lane, Dindy has just been farming to his heart's content in bottom. And as you said, he's looking quite good. Already has up his Morbid Mask, as well as a Wraith Band, and slowly his item progression coming together. Looks like we want to have an initiation. Bulba takes flight. He has a passenger, and will look for a target. Familiars will spot it. Sentry goes down immediately, keeping an eye for the Nyx Assassin. Let's see if they want to try to engage. Funnick is in view. And, yep, he's going to be lassoed. Really nice Sentry, and that's going to be a quick kill. Assassinate went off at the beginning of the fight. He will be able to hit an impale, but now here comes the rest of Na'Vi to engage off the back of the fight. Nice shot on Snaking as he ends up dropping. TC now has to run. And Koikfa right there with him. Koikfa has not skilled Moonlight Shadow yet. Just noticed that. And even though still has not put a point into it, so not having that to draw upon, they end up trading 1 for 1, but more importantly, they lose yet another Tier 1, and Na'Vi going to be very happy with the fruits of that.
Yeah, that's a bit of a mistake in my opinion. I feel like there's really no reason not to have that skill available from Koikfa, not to say that that's the reason why they lost the team fight, but the fact that you used the Infest Bomb and showed the Bat Blink and still only just traded 1 for 1 is pretty good. Funnick did a really good job about at least casting all his spells and having them land. I think Kuroki actually could have got an extra soul assumption onto Bulba right there, but maybe he was just a little bit out of range. I'm not quite sure, but he had a 4 charge on there, and nonetheless, he did get a kill on Snaking. So yeah, like I said, that's a bit of a win there for Na'Vi. And I was going to mention, Way2Sexy actually placed a ward up here by the Tier 1 tower in a kind of that little cheeky spot, but it got de-warded right away because it's in vision of the tower. So Sniper using his range just killed that ward right away. So small, unfortunate play there from Way2Sexy.
Wei-Tsu trying to do his job, and I agree with you. I was actually hovering over Visage whenever you said out of range. You got to be basically back in the fountain to be out of range for Soul Assumption. So, not sure if it was a range issue or if it really was just a mental mistake. Either way, perhaps a missed opportunity. Nonetheless, Na'Vi quite happy, I'm sure, with the way everything turned out. Another free tower for them. Their gold lead continuing to develop, though it has leveled off a bit. So Liquid, at the very least, has managed to stop the bleeding, just has yet to really get momentum heading in their favor. Taking a look at Kuro, it will be a pure Scepter rush as he's picked up his point booster. And we can see Liquid in position and ready to fight. Funnick's got eyes on him. Here come the familiars. They're going to engage. That's got TC inside. Out he comes, and now the sleep. Snaking right there with him. AA Ultimate will be there and will connect and kill off Bulba. Nice shot, and the arrow right after the end of the sleep. Kuro focused down behind the fight. We see the Static Storm has gone down. Kuro doing what damage he can. Snaking not in the best of shape. Here comes Havost, ready to go to work on TC, chasing him through the jungle. Funnick still alive right behind him. And as the rest of the fight is cleaned up behind TC as he tries to flee, we can see it ends up being a 3-for-1 exchange, and TC left to crawl his way back to the safety of the Tier 2. And very nice AA ultimate there coming out from Puppey. And Na'Vi, once again, just finding ways to make these small skirmishes, these kind of awkward fights taking place in awkward positions. And, you know, at this point, Na'Vi has to just wonder every time they engage on the bat if it's going to be 2 heroes they're engaging to, if not 1. And Na'Vi continuing to push. Not sure if we lost Trouf. Hopefully he's there.
Sorry, my mic was muted there for a second. But yeah, what I was going to say is one of the good things from Na'Vi is that, like, even though they're dying, like Hiroki was dying right there, he managed to get all his spells off, so he's being as effective as he can. Here comes Moonlight Shadow, though.
There's a lasso. They're going to catch Havost way out front. AA Ultimate, not really where he wanted it to be. Dindy doing what damage he can. Still not hitting very hard. He is hitting quickly, just not with some heavy hands. Quakefa's going to pursue this out. He leaps forward. Kuro's there to turn it around, and we're going to see a disruption, or a glimpse back, rather, of Puppey. So he's cleaned up, and TC is able to infest away from that last bit of damage. It might have been enough to bring him down. Dindy and Kuro trying to push back out as they do manage to send Liquid scurrying once again. And Na'Vi able to hold ground. They end up losing 2, but force the rest of Liquid. Ooh, the arrow does connect. Shot that across 2 or 3 different terrain heights. Does he have the damage? No, he doesn't. Carapace off cooldown, and that's going to be a little frustrating for Quakefa. Now the Familiars had an eye on him, but he's not about to waste time and hang around in a dark part of town after night.
Oh, he didn't get the double Starstorm. There's an AA blaster coming at mid. I don't think that's going to kill Quakefa right now, but yeah, that's really unfortunate. I feel like he should have gotten that kill, but nonetheless, I've been watching Dendy in these fights, and he's playing the sniper hero perfectly. I'm happy to see that because, like I said, this is kind of one of my favorite heroes in the moment. But if he's able to, like, kind of sit in the back of these fights, well, look at his item build too. This is like the perfect way to do it. Unfortunately, he doesn't have very much damage right now, but his evasive maneuvers in a fight, if he can just keep his positioning, he can just do so much damage. Even with right now, he has no damage items right now, but he has the shrapnel, and he has extra range because they did buff the range on the take aim in the last patch. So I like the way he's playing it. So if you get a chance to watch the next fight, it's really fun because he's just sitting in the back. He's constantly poking him with a headshot. I saw Snaking take like 4 in a row in that fight. That's why he died, and it's just really fun to watch him.
Messing around with the showcase camera, got to admit, I've never been one to use it much, but tried to make it look pretty, and unfortunately a lot of folks standing in front of him on the camera, so I'll have to practice with it. But in terms of the way Dindy's playing, I think you're highlighting a very important point. I mean, he's not at that stage. I mean, a fully fed sniper who's 6 slot is just going to just mow everyone down. He's like a walking machine gun in the most literal sense of the word. You can't do a whole lot about it. You can't get close to him. The mini stun is insane, and the damage output becomes insane very quickly. But at this stage, you have to play so very particular in your positioning, the targets you choose to engage, when you choose to back off, when you choose to move forward. And honestly, as a former StarCraft player, it reminds me very much of the stutter steps you used to have to do with units like Marines and Stalkers and so on. Hold that thought. As we've got Dota to talk about, not StarCraft, there's going to be a mass reaction coming out. Na'Vi ready to jump back in. TC comes out of Bulba. There's a Soul Assumption, does good damage. You're going to be able to isolate Havost. Static Storm goes down. Snaking forced to pull back as they manage to bring down 1. KKY right at the front of that and able to survive. Soul Assumption plus an impale out of Funnick secures yet another kill. That's a double kill for Dindy, and he is just doing work. And this is what it comes down to, playing this way, not going straight up for something insane like a Desolator, just relying on the Midas, making sure you give yourself every chance to survive these fights and continue to contribute that sustained DPS, and he is doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he really is. And not to nitpick Puppy at all, but I feel like Dust actually might be a little bit better in this matchup for them than the Sentries. In fact, they need both, but the Dust is a lot better for catching people, I feel. And if Sniper had some vision on them with the Dust, because he was definitely in range, but the Invis was still there from the bottom ulti, then he could have actually netted, I think, a couple more kills, but not the biggest deal in the world. But yeah, it's really fun to see Denny play this. It looks like he's going to go for maybe a BKB or a Strange Nyasha. I really hope it's damage at this point, but at the same time, if you look at his health pool, it's nothing very spectacular. He's at 891 right now at Agi Treads, so...
Yeah, I mean, that's the way he's playing it. It's not even glass cannon. It's basically just sustain. I mean, I think that's the only word that really fits here.
Maneuverability.
Yeah, just being able to keep himself alive and constantly contributing to these fights. And when you look at the way Na'Vi drafted this, that's the one thing they were lacking. I mean, you have a little bit of spammability out of Evos, that helps. Certainly Soul Assumption can be spammed. But, magic damage, as good as it is, you need to complement it with more. You've got the ability to synergize Burst with Ice Blast, and we've seen that be used to very good effect so far. Nyx Assassin has good stun with Impale, and of course Vendetta plus Mana Burn for Burst. But what they just really were lacking in their draft was just sustained DPS in the early and mid game. And the way Dindy has played it, the way Dindy has built it, has given them everything they need. They've turned this, what seemed to be, very narrowly defined squad into a pretty three-dimensional squad. And Liquid, as we can see, is having some trouble dealing with it. I mean, it's certainly still mid-game and reasonable, 19 minutes in, getting up towards 7,500 gold behind, not truly insurmountable, but it is becoming a problem. They have to be feeling a sense of urgency.
Yeah, and I know we keep talking about Sniper, but as it progresses, too, it's just very difficult, especially for even the ranged heroes, to kind of contest with him. His range is so great. It's extra 400 on top of whatever it is. So Mirana's never really going to go blow for blow with him. He's never going to come into contact with him. It's just going to be a blowout. And same thing with Nyx, and that's actually a really good item build that he has with the Mask of Madness, because to give that extra movement speed, you're going to be able to kite that Nyx. He's never going to get open wounds on him if he keeps his positioning. Not to mention he has that blink, so... Yeah, I really like his items so far. I know we keep talking about that, but we don't ever see a Sniper, so I feel like we can talk about it.
Yeah, when you look at the rest of the heroes that are out, I'd say they're fairly common, except maybe the Disruptor, maybe a little more of a niche pick there. So I don't feel a bit guilty talking about a Dindy mid-Sniper. That's just fun. 20 minutes on the money. It looks like we could have potential for action here in mid, as Na'Vi has hooked up as 3 and are beginning to show their face that away. Funix got his eye on a Haste Rune. He did come out of Vendetta about 30 seconds ago, so has to wait on the cooldown for that. Rest of Liquid, we see Way2 trying to catch up in levels. Bulba still looking for more items. He wants a 4th staff, already has a Staff of Wizardry up, but still a ways to go on it, at least for right now. It looks like Na'Vi just content to go ahead and start taking away real estate, really playing aggressive up on this high ground near the Tier 2 mid.
Yeah, and with the constant spam with the Nether Blast from Pugna, and as you see the Shrapnel right there, it's such a freaking long range. And now, yeah, I don't know if you mentioned, but yeah, the Ag's up on Visage. He's got the 3 birds to work with. He's not even level 10. He still has the Ags. So it's pretty crazy, too, to think about that Liquid only has 1 tower, and Navi's just kind of, I don't know, asserting dominance right now.
Bulba looks to be the crux around which this initiation will function once again. He's going to be assassinated, or it looked like, I thought I saw that pop up, my bad. But Dindy just continuing to spam it down. They don't need to play ultra aggressive here. They're doing a good job of forcing Liquid to pick their shot. And Dindy takes another tower kill. Here we go. Funix jumps in with the carapace up. Bulba's almost already dead. TC leaps out, and Ice Blast to follow it up. Caught almost everyone. Only Snaking escaped it. Down goes Way2. And now Koikva potentially in trouble. Kuro's right there behind him. There's going to be the Naga sleep, just to make sure everyone can pull back. But, yeah, Dindy doesn't care. He's out of range. He's pecking away at the tower the whole time that's going on. There's going to be an ensnare onto the Necronomicon Archer, just trying to stem the tide as any way they can. TC just not feeling very survivable at the moment, and the play of Na'Vi is just through the roof. They're executing so well.
Yeah, well, TC could just never get in range. It's very difficult. And, I feel like the Naga pick, and I was talking about how I still like it as a support despite the nerfs. I feel like when you play her as a support, not a core or mid, as we see, players like Arteezy do and Fata do, is that I feel like you really have to combo it up with something when you pick it as a support, and they really don't have anything here. And also, the Nyx is also a pretty dang good counter to that Bat Rider, and you saw it right there. You can activate the Carapace, blink in, it's a for sure stun, and then you get the follow-up stun with the Impale, so good heads-up play there from Funnick.
What I was expecting to see, just to build on your point, expecting to see all game that we really just haven't seen come to fruition is that Naga Siren just leading with Song of the Siren, and then just walking in the Disruptor, walking in the Mirana, walking in the Bat Rider, picking your targets, going, okay, these two are grouped together, they're Static Storm plus Kinetic Field, you lasso him, you arrow him, and Dunskies. We just haven't seen them really take advantage of that. They're constantly waiting for a good initiation to come out of Bulba on the Bat Rider, and, Bulba, it's not that he's playing terrible, it's just right now Na'Vi is just dealing with him. They have the tools to do so. And every time he's being caught with Ice Blast, he's being locked down by Funnick, who's undercover of Vendetta, who just spins an Impale to make sure they know where he is and they can initiate onto him instead of vice versa. And I feel like Liquid certainly has a lineup that could work well with this Naga. We just haven't seen it flat out.
Yeah, well, Na'Vi definitely wants to go and take these racks. They gave up top tower for pretty much no reason. They could have easily defended that if they want to. But the Nether Ward is down. The Necro Book 3 from Havos is now pummeling into those range racks, and I think the problem is that if you look at Na'Vi right now, look how spread out they are. Like, the snipers over here, well, they were spread out a little bit more a second ago, but they're just so spread out, and it's very difficult to get a good initiation, even with the Naga ult, because they're not going to find, like, a two-man Disruptor ult on top of that, because Na'Vi is so spread out.
Good positioning, good game planning, good drafting.
Free racks. Yep. Look at that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like that. There was no reason to interrupt you because Liquid literally couldn't do anything. They just sat back and stared on. It's just like, well, that's a damn shame. And
it was almost so like easy for me to watch. Like, oh yeah, racks are going down. No biggie. Yeah. Like it was that.
And way two, caught out, cleaned up. Dindy still not hitting all that hard, but he's hitting fast and he's hitting often. And yep, they're ready to go ahead and rush down the Tier 3 bottom. Like, I mean, if you're in Liquid shoes, what's a game plan, man? How do you stop this other than what we've been talking about? Initiating off of a song and just hoping maybe you catch Na'Vi in poor position.
I think right now Bulba's going to have to go around and get the sniper. He's going to have to find a sniper. I mean, he can also find Pugna, but I feel like in the last couple of engagements, they've been going on Pugna every single time. Like, Avos, I think, has died, well, he only died twice, actually, but, I mean, that's the same number as everyone else on his team, except for Dendy and Puppy, but I feel like they really need to kill Dendy first. Even though he's, like you said, he's not doing too much damage, his build is really exploiting his headshot and his shrapnel.
Oh, Bulba, what happened? Ice Blast will come through and catch both of them. Bulba has to make for the well. He came in and just kind of fluffed it. Now we're going to see a nice Static Storm. This is what they've been looking for all game, catching 3. Dindy still doing what damage he can, really far forward, but bailed out by his teammates as Funnick is there to help out with the Vendetta and Impale. And we're going to see the rest of Na'Vi continue to roll. They did manage to pick off a Host. Dindy diving back with Funnick and tracking down. Yeah. Yep, GG.
Yeah, GG.
So,
yeah,
go ahead.
That was pretty crazy. I mean, Dendy, as you mentioned, was actually pretty far front, but he's just got so much more farm on top of that Nyx, and Nyx just knows that for the second, if he can't keep Dendy in the same spot, that he can't do anything. So I would actually have to attribute it. I mean, I think Na'Vi played tremendously, but more so than that, I think they just flat out outdrafted Liquid, especially in this game. As we pointed to the very beginning of the game, they have no counter push, like close to no counter push from Liquid, and right now from Na'Vi's, their draft, it's pretty much all push. I mean, we saw them take every tower pretty quickly in that match, so yeah.
No, I agree with you completely. It's, I mean, you pointed that out very early, and it turned out to be the most astute observation in the match, as it really was a difference maker. And seeing a professional played sniper, always a lot of fun. Then he finishes up 6-1 and 612 GPM, top of the board by the time all was said and done. TC just couldn't really do much. I mean, we saw them try to utilize the Bat Rider and the Lifestealer combination, but it just never really worked out. And in that last fight, it was just a total flub. And even though they hit the best Static Storm kinetic field they had all match, they just, by that point, they didn't have what they needed to bring those heroes down. The farming was just a little bit too much on the side of Na'Vi. And I mean, just, good drafting. And Havost, even though he finished 0-3 and 9, was the crux around which a lot of their lineup focused. Basically just his ability to walk up, Nether Blast, run back while Dindy just pecked away from distance. It creates this situation of all or nothing for Liquid. You can't half commit. You can go and try to get a lasso off, but even then, they have enough counter initiation in the form of Nether Ward, in the form of Ice Blast, in the form of a well-placed Impale, so on and so forth, that Liquid was just kind of in an all-or-nothing situation, it felt like, from the moment the laning phase broke down.
Yeah, I mean, Phobos definitely did their job that game, and I believe, yeah, TC did draft both games. I'm really especially questioning the Mirana last pick. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. If there's any a hero I would not want to pick against what looks to be like a respectable kind of pushing lineup, it's a Mirana. She can't really do anything. Like I mentioned, there's no initiation with the ultimate. Pushing lineups generally have lots of wards on their supports because they're getting more towers early on, which means, yeah, the ultimate's kind of useless. And also TC picking himself, I feel, kind of clunky heroes in both matches. Lifestealer is not really the most clunky when you get drums, but he didn't buy drums. He went for a different kind of armlet basher build, and that's probably because, I can just get in the Batrider and initiate that way, but it never worked out. Volva could never really find the best openings.
25 minutes, 42 seconds, the final game time here in game number 2. Na'Vi, in less than an hour combined game time, manages to shut out Liquid 2-0. Liquid using 2 different stand-ins, Demon in game 1 and Snaking in game 2. Just unable to really find the stability they would need to overcome a test like Na'Vi. This has been the D2L Western Challenge. I'm your host here on AC Chambers, live here in our studio. And yes, I have been getting tweets. It's like, is that the actual Aegis? Yeah, that's the real thing. Doesn't this look so awesome on top of the Monster Fridge? I just absolutely love it. And all the great art prints, by the way, from different item sets in the game. Gotta love those as well. Our fancy schmancy TV, even though it has a horrendous glare right now, and hopefully we'll do something about that looking ahead. But for now, guys, it has been a lot of fun. Trouf, as always, my friend, thank you for being on board for the cast. And still got a number of them, only about 2.5, 3 weeks, I think, of regular season play that we're going to get to do. But then, of course, we have the playoffs and the grand finals. But glad to hear you're feeling better. We could tell you were a little under the weather your first day. You sound much better today.
Hey, thank you. There's still some coughing going on in the sick ward here, but yeah, we're all slowly recovering, slowly but surely. But yeah, thanks again for having me.
Hey, absolutely my pleasure, friend. And why don't you go ahead and drop the deets on where they can find more about you on Twitter, as well as any other streaming services, any other social media links that you want to link to.
Yeah, thanks. You can find me on Twitter at TroufDota, and my stream is twitch.tv/Trouf.
There you go. Make sure you check him out. Great insight and a great player as well. And he'll be back joining me tomorrow for our next broadcast. And I'm actually not sure, now that I think of it off the top of my head, who's playing tomorrow. Can we get the schedule up? Connie, you on it? You on it? You got it? There it is. Oh, there we go. As we can see, tomorrow will be Evil Geniuses versus Empire. Or no, that was actually on Tuesday. So tomorrow will be Empire versus Na'Vi. And you think the Russian viewership will be a little high for that? You think it's possible?
Yeah, just a tad.
Friday will be Team Liquid taking on Cloud9, and Saturday, well, I'm pretty sure on the Reddit post I did, I think it's Swimming with Otters. So you're more than welcome to join us for that. If you would like to, Trout. So our first doubleheader will be on Sunday as well. So that'll be Fnatic taking on EG, and EG taking on Team Liquid afterwards. So an EG doubleheader coming up this Sunday, as well as the matches you see right in front of you. Once again, I am AC on behalf of myself, on behalf of the whole D2L crew, and of course of TroufDota. Oh, before I go, you can find me, by the way, at AC on Twitter, at AYESEE. I'm also on Twitch. Don't stream a ton on my personal channel, but still, if you want to follow it, I'm sure I'll get to that at some point. It's twitch.tv/ACTV. And you can find me under the ACTV name as well on both YouTube and Facebook and various other places. So until tomorrow, guys, again, on behalf of myself and the whole D2L crew, including Trouf, thanks for joining us, and enjoy your evening, morning, or afternoon, and enjoy some donut.